Phil sees that Meg works for Hades, is trying to tell Hercules that, and he's mad. And this is when he's doing workouts, and this is when I said we see his Hercusy, because he, like, from the front, his skirt is down. I was like, wow, okay.
Because Hercules, I can't.
Yeah, I was like, Hercules, cover up. This is a children's film, and you are barely legal. Welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we watch and discuss the lore behind our favorite and least favorite fantasy films. I'm still getting my mouth around that intro line. Shout out to our theme music. Hi, I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah.
And today, for our 20th episode celebration, we're doing a double feature in a way with Jon of Life's But a Song.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Welcome,
so glad to be here.
Welcome to Olympus.
Well, yeah, we're both
Mount
on
Olympus.
Mount
I did
Olympus.
not get the memo that we were on Olympus, but I'm here for it.
We are gods, and you are but a mortal.
You're right. I am just a mortal.
Yeah.
But mortals can be powerful, as we see.
You know, we Jon has been a friend of the pod since the Glee Boot days.
I walked you guys through my quarterback, or the quarterback.
Tough episode. And then we were on to talk about seasons 2 and 3. We got the best season.
Yes, yeah. We're friends. We do crossovers here and there, and it just so happens that we're doing a crossover event for Hercules.
Hercules, the 1997 movie for our July Mythology month. Why are we doing a Mythology month in July? Because you can check out Outside in Theater, where I am streaming a Twitch Dungeons and Dragons actual play called Camp Oracle about demigods in a summer camp, much like that other franchise. So
that other franchise that we're not going to talk about yet.
Or maybe we will.
Or maybe we have. I can't remember the schedule.
or maybe you'll just tease everyone and do it, in December.
Just wait another year. Yeah. I was on Jon's episode for Disenchanted, another Disney Alan Menken musical.
Yes. Yeah, that I'm surprised. Have you guys covered it yet on here? I mean, is there something to cover on here about it, really?
Maybe someday. But
I
feel like I said
the Disney princess.
Yeah, I feel like I've said everything I needed to say on Life's But a Song. So
you did. Yeah, we did. That movie's weird.
Yeah,
but not as bad as. But then you watch ones like this, and you remember, oh, Disney is good sometimes.
Yeah, the 90s.
They get it right.
The 90s was a time for Disney. Now, have we seen Hercules 1997, the animated classic, before?
Oh, fuck yeah. Sorry, am I allowed to?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what's interesting is I know I've seen this movie as a kid, don't remember it at all. But because we had the McDonald's plates, I had Hercules and Zeus. I specifically remember those plates because I did a lot of dishes as a kid. And I spent a lot of time doing those dishes because I would sit there and imagine in my head, little 8-year-old me spending 4 hours doing dishes.
I love this.
Getting water everywhere. My parents were furious.
That was
But anyway, and then I tried to watch it as an adult, but I was too drunk and stuffed on Steak and Shake to stay awake, and I fell asleep. And then I obviously watched it for this podcast. Yeah, it's really strange. I know I had seen it, but I just didn't remember any of it.
And this is one of the rare Disney movies where it's a male lead. So I really love this movie. What like I visit it every so often. I'm now having memories of seeing the Disney on Ice version of it, and I don't
Oh,
know if that's true or not.
interesting.
So we're gonna go with it's true because yeah,
This movie
yeah,
had a pretty aggressive marketing campaign.
Again, McDonald's plates.
yes, yeah. I mean, like they, it's funny because in the movie they make fun of it in a way
but it's
where,
like,
but it's
And
all
then
her,
they literally had
and then they do
merch.
it. Yes, because
Mhm.
that's.
yeah,
I mean, that how else are you gonna sell things? You
yeah,
have to.
that's
If the movie bombs, but like, hey, you can get a doll out of it, like whatever.
Right.
yeah. I did not see this movie until I was like older, like maybe like 12. So I wasn't allowed to watch it as a kid, I think because of the paganism, because of the false
Oh,
gods. And then
interesting.
watching this was part of me like soft launching, like, Mom, I really want to read mythology. Like I would look from the fairy tale section
Yes.
of the library like down and be like, it's just a couple shelves over. And then like I tried to be secretive. My mom was like, hey, it's fine, you can watch it. And then she's like, yeah, you can watch the movie, you can read the stuff. But I think because I didn't see it as a kid, or like I was at the age where I remember feeling really uncomfortable watching it. Like it made me feel embarrassed, like I was too old to be watching it.
Oh, interesting.
So I
Interesting.
wonder if I missed whatever. Hannah has this opinion a lot where like she feels like she missed the window to like really enjoy a property.
And I
And
want to specify that it's a personal window. Okay. Because some
yes.
people discover Star Wars as an
Mm.
adult and they love it. This adult did not love it.
Oh,
So,
trust me, there are some things that I watch on my podcast, and I'm like, I get it why you guest pick this because you have the childhood attachment to it. This
mhm.
is my first time watching it, so obviously I'm going to rip it apart.
My window so far away.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
I think you
but
and
like,
John had the similar reactions to The Last Unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
So
tree boobs, but like also I that was my first time watching it, and you're telling me this is a kids movie? Like what?
I know, wild. But I think what's interesting, you saying that like you felt like too old. When we were watching it last night, Lyle said something really kind of spot on. He said it's kind of Looney Tunesy, where like there's like sound effects when people get like their heads bonged, and it's like
Yes.
it feels a bit more cartoonish, which is a really weird thing to say because it's a cartoon. But like I was like, yeah, it does feel very much like a kids movie in that sense. So
It's
yeah.
also like you've heard of the Disney-fied versions of the stories, but like this one you're like, "Oh, this is really Disney-fied. Like this is really toned down." Like
Yeah.
um there's a lot of things that they've changed.
A lot
I'm
of
just
liberties
a lot
taken.
of
Liberties take it.
liberties.
Which, you know what? I'm okay with making adaptational choices. You know, I've passed my you gotta be pure to the source material age. I'm like,
Mhm.
you know what? You gotta adapt it. The thing is, this is at least doing it for kids. The thing is, I see this movie make the same choices as a lot of movies for adults, like the Clash of the Titans reboot, Troy. You know, like I've yet to see a mythology movie I love because, with the exception, oddly enough, of Gods of Egypt, which I didn't love, but I think Gods of Egypt did this. They kind of a lot of mythology movies Christianize it. You know,
Mhm.
Gods of
Gods
Egypt
of
didn't, but it was
Egypt.
still trash. It was still trash. But like
The
The
most
they,
delicious
whitewashing?
trash.
which is Gods of Egypt, which is funny because Egyptian mythology is a little more Christiany, you know, in its tone. But like
No,
the
no, you have to reverse that. Christianity is a little more
yeah,
ancient
we're going
Egyptian-y.
timeline wise. So like they always do that with Greek mythology, and that's so not how it was set up. But I
Yeah.
mean, they've been doing it since the Victorian period, so I can't blame them. But at least this movie has the excuse of it's for children and families, whereas like Troy and Clash of the Titans is just because like straight white males have trouble relating to another straight white male who might also believe in a higher power. Like they're so centralized in they're like what they can experience, they can only make a character just like them. I did see Hercules and Meg at Disneyland once at Sweethearts Night, and we are gonna wait in line for them, but then they were switching out for Anna and Kristoff, and Rafa is not a Frozen fan, so he was like, no. I know,
Wow,
we're a mixed
interesting.
marriage, yeah.
That is very interesting because didn't you say a couple episodes back that like you sat him down to watch like a fantasy movie and he hates fantasy? And it's like,
Yeah.
what an interesting relationship.
Yes. He's
Well-
watched a few with me, and other times he's like, nah.
They do say opposites attract.
True.
So
True.
I mean, if you forced him to watch Glee and he's still with you, he's a keeper.
That's true.
He was
We have
on the
proof that
Grease-
he watched it.
The
Mhm.
Glease episode, yes.
Oh,
Uh,
if he survived the Glease episode, man, you stay with him.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
you owe him.
I owe him a lifetime after that. Even though Hercules wasn't my favorite as a kid, Meg and Hades did play big roles in my novel-length Disney fanfic. Hercules was in it as well, but smaller role.
Back-to-back episodes mentioning that. Or no,
Yeah.
almost back-to-back.
Yeah. Anytime we do a Disney classic, I'm like, well, these were in a fanfic. So this film was directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, both of whom produced the film with Alice Dewey Goldstone. The screenplay was by Musker, Clements, Donald McHenry, Bob Shaw, and Irene Mecci. Musker and Clements, back in the 80s, after straight off the heels of Great Mouse Detective, pitched a couple of movies to Jeffrey Katzenberg, DreamWorks founder, but now at this time he worked for Disney. They said, okay, Little Mermaid, Treasure Planet. And he's like, okay, do the mermaid one. And then it was huge. And then they're like, now can we make Treasure Planet? And then he's like, we're trying to do Aladdin. Can you do Aladdin? And they're like, okay. And they're like, well, we did Aladdin, Treasure Planet. And he's like, one more movie, something super successful. We've had a bunch of mythology pitches floating around. Do you want to do Hercules? And they're like, okay, we think we can do Hercules. And they decided they were going to make it a combo of Superman and like a Rocky athlete type story. So trying to combine those two narratives. So it owes more to those than to the story of Hercules.
I can tell.
You can tell.
I don't know that much about Hercules. I know enough, but
And the interesting thing though is that I had to look this up, is that Hercules is the Roman version of the name.
Lyle kept saying that.
Yeah.
He was like, it's Heracles.
But Hercules is so ingrained because there was the TV show, there are so many movies. It's just like Hercules is a pop culture staple.
Yeah.
Even the Wikipedia pages for both Heracles and Hercules are like, he's originally called Heracles, but like Hercules is the one that like they kind of adopted it over time, and got rid of.
And Hercules wasn't.
A.
So like Venus and Aphrodite are combined, but Venus was a separate goddess before she was lumped in with Aphrodite. Mm-hmm. And so there's like a slightly different characterization. But like Hercules, I'm pretty sure, is just like Heracles transferred over. You know, there isn't like, I don't think there was a pre-existing, or at least a strong pre-existing element.
Yeah, because the Romans just like adopted what the Greeks had, but renamed it or revert. One of them.
They comboed the gods and just borrowed the mythology.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But changed the names around.
Yeah, because they were like, well, the Greeks were like the cultural influencers of the time. So like if we have their religion, it makes it easier because everyone's already familiar with Zeus and Aphrodite and Artemis to like kind of win them over, you know, like get them to transfer their religion.
Sorry, I love that you called them cultural influencers, because now I'm just imagining if they had Instagram way back in the day and they'd be like, #culture, we did it first.
We know Alexander
the Great.
Indoor plumbing. We know Alexander the Great would have been an Insta-gay.
Oh yeah.
Trying to conquer India, and he's like in booty shorts above the mountains. Yeah. Last post before he dies.
Here for it. I'm here for all of this. Also, I hope that makes the socials this little bit of conversation that happened.
I think it will. This movie stars Tate Donovan as Hercules, Danny DeVito as Phil. Shout out to a friend of the podcast, T. He loves his performance. James Woods as Hades. Susan Egan as Megara. She played Belle on Broadway. She originated the role of Belle on Broadway.
Technically, there are 3 voices for Hercules.
I saw that and I was like, I'm confused. Because he has a teen. The teen is a separate voice?
There's a separate voice for the teen.
The adult's version.
Well,
And then
I feel like he's a teen the whole time because he's 18. That's a teen.
well, so when
he's
he's
the
in the
buff
white
version.
when he's in the white toga and just abnormally strong, it's John Keaton who's doing the voice. And then over the transformation with his time with Phil, it turns into Take Donovan. But then you have the singing voice is Roger Bart.
Now, that is a pointless. Why isn't it not just the same voice?
Because Disney did that a lot.
No, I know this. In the 90s, they had the different singing and acting, like Pocahontas, Irene Bedard, Judy Kuhn. You know, like Lea Salonga was singing Jasmine Mulan, which was doing lines. But why is the teenage him a different voice?
I guess they wanted to delineate a lot of time passed, or enough time passed that he just went through puberty. I don't know. Ask.
Or they want him to sound like. Okay, so this kind of gives away my main issue with the movie is that I don't care about Hercules at all because I know he's a god and he has powers. I don't care that people call him a freak. I don't care that he's a little, he looks like awkward. I think that's what they did with that voice. They wanted him to feel like an awkward tween.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, he's self-assured. So he's Tate Donovan in like, it's not like a overly masculine voice, but it's definitely more
deeper,
mature.
Yeah.
And so I think that's sort of like they want the audience to buy in to be like, oh wow, like he's really grown.
Yeah.
Like
just get a voice actor who can do both, babes.
And like Roger Bart's speaking voice is probably not what they were looking for.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I get the singing acting difference. It's the 2 age difference. The 2 age of by like 3 years. I'm like, come on. All right, so this movie was not a box office bust or a banger, but it did underperform. Did not meet expectations. The premiere in Greece was shut down by the Greek government because they're like, this movie is insulting.
Yes.
It is. I imagine so.
Which I'm very surprised at hearing that because
well, first of all, they're like, it's Hercules. Fuck you.
Oh no, not the Greek part. The fact that it underperformed, because like I know that there are a lot of people around our age that love this movie. They love the muses. They love the music. Go the Distance is like, I feel like,
but they were children then. And did their parents want to turn out to see Hercules?
Also, movie tickets were cheaper then than they are today.
True, so like, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it underperformed for Disney in the 90s, so it still made like several million.
What was right before this? Lion King?
Hunchback. So they had after you had Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin, like boom, boom, boom. Then they had Pocahontas, which did better than Hercules, but wasn't the critical darling they were hoping for. They had Hunchback, which is kind of an oddball. And they had Hercules. They were still in their like kind of new golden age, but like it wasn't.
This is the last of the Renaissance, right?
Tarzan, because after this you get Moana and Tarzan.
That's right.
But there was a TV show spinoff about Hercules in high school. Lisa Kudrow played Aphrodite in that.
Stop.
There was a canceled straight to DVD sequel. It was canceled in 2006 when John Lasseter took control. It currently is in the musical. The musical is on its journey to Broadway. I believe it's an out-of-town tryouts, or it was very recently.
Yeah, it was a few months ago. It was at Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey.
Yeah. I actually think this could be a really fun stage musical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's a planned live action remake because of course there is.
See, this one I can see a live action remake because there's a lot of people in it. Unlike The Lion King.
You know what? That's a really good point. There's a lot of humans.
Because like even with The Little Mermaid, there was enough humans involved in it that you're like, okay.
It wasn't, we weren't in like Lion King or even the Beauty and the Beast territory with all
I mean,
objects.
well, so Lion King was weird, but
one of the most boring theatrical experiences.
This one is, if they were to do it, it's basically like you said, Clash of the Titans, the remake.
There's a lot you can work with. There's a lot,
yes, and like you can definitely like I know with these remakes they're trying to pander to us millennials because like they want us to buy the tickets and go see it and everything, but like but like, you know, you can alter the look of the Hydra, or you
Yeah.
can the centaur, the
Yeah, the
centaur,
River
Oh,
Guardian,
yeah.
yeah.
River Guardian, thank you. Like
Yeah.
you can, they don't have to look exactly like the cartoon, but like you can alter it and still call it the same thing, and we'll all be like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
this is the
Right.
Hydra.
Mhm.
Hercules, it doesn't have a huge representation in the parks, even though I think there's some stuff in this movie that would be cool on a ride. This movie did feature the first Black characters in an animated Disney movie since the slave, potentially, centaurs in Fantasia that are edited out because they are racist caricatures. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, just another reason I love the
Right.
muses.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. Wow.
Yeah, 97 was the first
Sorry.
time we got a
We're gonna
non-racist
no,
black
no, no, no. We're gonna sit on this for a second, everyone. We're just gonna sit in this and ponder and
on there.
remember Disney. Because then,
Disney.
because I can't remember if Fantasia happened before or after Songs of the South, but like there's also
Yeah.
that. So we're gonna yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm,
Uh
yeah.
wild.
Wild. Splash Mountain.
Pass.
Splash Mountain closed at Disneyland.
Finally.
And the ride will still be there. No one was protesting in Disneyland, thankfully, like they did in Magic Kingdom.
Well, because they're just changing it, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
literally
they're
the
just
same ride. Like I actually do enjoy that ride, but the things I enjoy about it will still be there. It will just
yeah.
be based on a movie I've seen. Let's talk about, now that we've touched on Splash Mountain lore. Let's talk about the lore of Hercules. We got a lot. So I'm trying to keep this tight, but this will still we got some interesting things. So Titans, we've talked about Titans before, I'm pretty sure. But refresher, they're kind of the ancient gods, ancestors of the main gods. Like so it seems to be almost more of a political delineation than a biological one. Zeus overthrew his father Kronos the Titan, and he put the Titans in Tartarus, which is like super hell, like underworld plus. This pissed off Gaia, Mother Earth, because even though she wanted Zeus to overthrow Kronos for imprisoning some of her kids, she was mad that Zeus then imprisoned some of her kids, the Titans. It was very
Imprisoning,
uncomfortable.
eating, one way or another.
Yeah.
Potato, potato.
So that's the Titans in a nutshell. We will talk about Titans more, so I just want to like quick refresh. The Fates, we've mentioned them before back in the Black Cauldron episode, the ancestors of the Unholy Trinity on Glee. The Fates were the daughters of Nyx and Erebus, which are darkness titans. Or, depending on who you ask, Zeus and Themis, who is the Titan goddess of justice and fate. They measured everyone's fate in strands and cut them with scissors, but they did not share one eye. That was a different set of sisters. That was the Grey, the children of Ceto and Porcus, primordial sea deities. They were born old and crusty, and they had one eye and tooth that they shared.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the fates are supposed to look more like in Clash of the Titans, where they have no eyes, right?
That's so in Clash of the Titans, it's the Grey that they're
Oh, okay.
referencing. Yeah. So
Okay.
I know I would make this combo too. Like I'm explaining the difference, but I'm not like, that's my nitpick. I'm like, yeah, I would, it's fun, give him one eye, like that's
Which
a cool
adds
feature.
which adds to like the target audience. You know, they want to make the comedy. I'm thinking of the one time where one of them pops the eye out by banging the other one's head. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's funny.
It's
Yeah.
fun. It's a good visual gag.
To take a step back though, to the Titans though, they did take civil liberties on the appearance of them, yes?
Yes. So because the
Okay.
Yeah, there
Titans,
wasn't a tornado one that was like, I'm gonna blow them.
You know what? I don't know, because there's always a god of something.
I mean, they were kind of the Titans, again, it was more of a political delineation because they were ancient deities, but they kind of covered all kinds of shit or seemingly no shit at all, and like some of the Titans were Titans, but they were on Zeus's side. So it's almost like, so in like Jotun or giant, like in the Thor, like Norse mythology,
Mhm.
people debate whether or not it literally means giant or it's just like a different clan of deities, because Jotun's married
Interesting.
Aesir and Vanir, you know, so it's Greek mythology. We have a lot of primary sources for, unlike Norse or Celtic, but it's still, we don't know exactly 100% what they meant, especially because
Right.
some of these figures weren't that important to them. Like, people who wrote down these stories were like, yes, the grandfather of so and so, but like your average person, they knew Zeus and the Fates, like they knew the different gods, but they weren't into like, who's Phoebe, the Titan of Shining, who was, you know, it's like they didn't give a shit. People did give a shit about the muses. Poets referenced them a lot. They
Mhm.
were, tell me, O Muse, you know, it's how the Homeric epics typically open. They're goddesses of art and inspiration. Their number
And
and
roller
origin
skating.
and roller skating. Yeah, I've hinted that I might want to do like a Muse month and talk about Xanadu.
Bring me back on for Xanadu, baby. I've done it twice on my podcast, and I'll never stop talking about that movie.
So the number of muses varied until it kind of became like, okay, there's 9 muses. And they're the daughters, roughly, usually, the daughters of Zeus and Nemosphere, who's a Titan, the Titan goddess of memory. I think sometimes she's depicted with long hair because like she stores all her memories in her hair, like Gretchen Wieners.
Interesting.
So they are Calliope. She's like the head muse, epic poetry. Cleo, history. Euterpe, flutes and music. Thalia, comedy and pastoral poetry. Melpomene, tragedy. Terpsichore, dance. Erato, love poetry and lyric poetry. Polyphemia, hymns and sacred poetry. And Urania, astronomy. I'm sure I said some of those names wrong.
Greece is shaking.
Yeah, I'm about to be canceled by the Greek government.
And it's interesting though that they like pared it down to a 5-member girl group.
Yeah. I think that because that's easier to animate than like 9. That'd just be a little too much.
Plus, like, I mean, 9 voices is, I
That's
mean,
an
they're
odd
That's a
number.
little much.
they're more which, so what's interesting about this, and I'm going to delve, I know we're doing background, but I'm going to delve into the movie for a hot second, where like they say that they're the narrators. Like they
Yeah.
take over from the narrator. And so I feel like if you had 9 of them, they turn into a Greek chorus, which is like in the Greek plays was like
Yeah.
the ensemble also like giving information to the audience. But like I feel like, yeah, the extra 4 is just too many bodies and also would be way too cluttered.
Again, the Greeks weren't like 9 was eventually what everyone went with, but it was not like a canon, like, yes, there's 9, because, you know, there wasn't a scripture, there wasn't a Catholic church or somebody to be like, yes, this is the official. It's just like whatever, so whoever was vibing with. So
Right, and
there's no like it has to be 9, you know.
With this, there's multiple interpretations of like Hercules or Zeus.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that's what like there's no like canon. When, I mean, even in fairy tales, when someone says, oh, in the original story, they're usually kind of wrong. Like, it's stories are so nebulous and they evolve, and so that's why I'm like, yeah, change the story, especially if you're trying to make a movie, especially if you're trying to make a family movie.
Right.
You got to change some things. I think sometimes, I don't know, I don't think this movie reaches the point, but I think there are sometimes when movies adapt certain stories where I'm like, well, after you've made this many changes,
is it the same story?
Yeah.
Well, because like, I mean, I feel like especially with Greek mythology,
yeah,
there's just a lot of murder and a lot of orgies, and like Hera,
sexual violence, and
yeah, in this movie, like obviously they changed who Hercules' mom is, because according to lore, it's not Hera, but like Hera, they also made her super Disneyfied.
Yeah.
like she's like Old Testament Christian God, where she's vengeful and she tries to murder somebody. I think it was Hercules. I don't remember.
Well, that's the thing, is stories evolve, and so we even continue. You can Disneyfy Disney, as we talked about in the Beauty and the Beast remake. We talked about how, you know, the fairy or the enchantress in the first one doesn't need like a reason to like curse an 8-year-old boy to be a cup. You know, like, she's just a fairy. She considers she was slighted. She's going to punish people. And that's their logic. And then the remake tried to like justify it and kind of made it worse. So, you know, gods don't really operate on the same level of like what we think is acceptable.
Right. Because they're like, oh, we're gods. We literally can get away with murder.
Yeah. I mean, which makes sense if you're look at powerful people, powerful humans.
Although I do have to say, they were pansexual now that we have like this new term.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they
Mhm.
would say, I mean, they didn't have it back then, but like Zeus fucks anybody.
Which so that leads into our next topic, the cult of Hercules. So cult, when you're talking in mythology terms, means like the religious worship. It doesn't mean like evil or
As we use
subversive.
cult
Yeah, we use
now.
cult to be like you're gonna drink Kool-Aid or you're a Duggar or something.
What? I've got my shrine in my closet for Hercules. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
I have a goat somewhere in my apartment. I won't say where.
don't say where. PETA, don't come for me. So Hercules, or Heracles, as he was called in Greece, was a god of like strength and masculinity. Though it was a theological debate whether or not he was a god or a hero or both. A hot topic. Some speculate there's some evidence women were not allowed to worship Hercules.
Interesting.
Too sexy.
Yeah, happy Pride Month. Well, it's not Pride Month
Yeah.
anymore by the time this comes out.
It's always Pride Month, for fuck's sake.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I had a comedian in December say it was just Pride Month, and then proceed to give the worst set I've ever heard. So, but on that note, Hercules had a shit ton of male lovers. He had many female lovers. He had many male lovers as well. The most famous is Hylas. He was a pretty young boy who was seduced and kidnapped by water nymphs when he and Hercules were supposed to join Jason and the Argonauts, Greek mythology's Avengers. So Hercules only spent a short time with them because his boyfriend was kidnapped by nymphs.
Oh my god. Greek mythology Avengers.
It had like people from other stories. It was a crossover.
I'm here for that. Yes.
There are Jason and the Argonauts movies that we will get to. So Hercules or Heracles. So I'm reducing his story because it's like this huge sprawling narrative. I'm gonna try and condense it to like the most common way people retell it, like kind of the basics of the story. So once upon a time, there's this princess named Alcmene. She's a descendant of Perseus, who is a son of Zeus, who I dressed as for Halloween one year, and he killed Medusa. Zeus disguised himself as her husband, Amphitryon, and convinced the sun to stop for 3 days so they could have sex for 3 days. And then he left, and then her husband comes back, and then she's like, wait, you were gone? What the fuck? You were just here. And then she's like, shit, I just had sex with Zeus probably. So she names the kid Heracles, meaning Hera's glory, to be like, Hera, please, like, don't be mean to me. Hera, she was Zeus's wife, the goddess of marriage and women. We just talked about her cursing Echo with not being able to reply, or only being able to reply. So there's this baby, and Athena, who is the ultimate pick-me, the goddess of wisdom and war, snuck Hercules up to Olympus and tricked Hera into breastfeeding him. And so she did, but then he bit her nip, and she was like, ugh, and then the milk that came out became the Milky Way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here for this.
Interesting.
And that's his origin of super strength in the myth. Not that he was Zeus's son, but that Hera got some of that mommy milk. So
Goddess mommy milk.
Goddess mommy milk. Hera was mad, so she, back on Earth, she sent snakes to strangle him, but he strangled them. Much like he does to Pain and Panic in the movie. That's like an iconic Hercules image.
Fun.
So he becomes a local hero, and so he marries Megara, the princess of Thebes.
And I thought Disney made her up. I
no,
didn't know that she was real.
They were married. But Hera made him insane, so he killed her and all their children.
This is sounding like what
sounds like an ogre queen regent that I've heard of before.
Yes, he had to do penance for that. So as we find out in a lot of these stories, the oracles are easily paid off. So Hera pays off the oracle and tells Hercules he has to do 10 labors for King Eurystheus. We're going to call him King Urethra.
Okay.
He had become High King because Hera, who is either the goddess of childbirth or in some versions the mother of Aletheia, the goddess of childbirth, she made sure that this King Urethra was born preemie, so he hit the prophecy point, and Hercules was born late, so he didn't meet the prophecy that would make him High King.
Got it.
So Hercules now had to do 10 labors. So first he had to kill the Nemean lion. This is why he famously in art is usually wearing a lion skin. In the
Which
movie,
is
it's
Scar in this movie.
Yeah. The Hydra is his second one. So that the snake thing, he cuts off the head, 2 or 3 heads will grow in its place. And so with the help of his charioteer, who depending on the version is his brother, his lover, depends. He's like, I cut off the head, you take a torch and you burn the head so it doesn't grow back. Hera was mad, so she sent a crab to try and pinch him as he did it, but he kicked the crab into the sky and it became cancer.
That's me.
I love it. There's other Hercules movies, by the way, from like the late 70s, early 80s,
Yeah.
where I can't remember which one it is. It's either Hercules or Hercules in New York, where it's either Arnold Schwarzenegger or Lou Ferrigno like throws a bear in the sky and it becomes Ursa Major.
A bear.
Because
we talked about the origins of Ursa Major, I think a couple weeks ago at one point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many Hercules. I feel like I know you're still doing background, but I want to just say Hercules. I feel like is one of those stories that like Hollywood just likes to go to because it's a hero's journey in a way, or in what you're talking about, it's redemption, which is what audiences will sympathize with.
And it's a name people recognize.
Yes.
It's like the big 4: Hercules, King Arthur, Robin Hood, Cinderella. Everyone can basically be like, that's the so-and-so. And then you have like Snow White, Pinocchio are coming up as almost being on that level. All right, so he gets his famous poison arrows. He dips his arrows in the Hydra's blood and they become poison. And that's like his special tool. His next task is he has to capture the golden hind of Artemis. And he is like, I better not hurt it because Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and nature, is not someone you want to make mad. So, but he captures the hind and then he has to capture a boar. And then the next one is a fun one. He has to clean the Augean stables in a day. There were like 3,000 horses and cows in these stables that had never been cleaned. They're just caked and covered in shit. So Hercules diverted a river to clean them.
I mean, outside the box thinking.
Yeah, very savvy.
Think work smarter, not harder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hercules wasn't all just bronze. He has some brains and cleverness in these stories.
No, question real quick before we keep going. He's either a god or a man. There's no like demigod debate about him.
I mean, he's a demigod in a way. Yeah, because he's part god, but like in society, he is a human. Like he doesn't have a different status.
Got it. Because like there's like thousands of demigods.
Yeah.
Because Zeus couldn't keep it in his pants.
Zeus and really most
or
of the
toga.
other couldn't keep Zeus, Poseidon, Hephaestus, Ares, Hermes, Apollo, Dionysus.
I mean, yes, all of them, but like
Aphrodite too.
But like a lot of stories. A lot of stories start with, so Zeus had sex with this one person.
Yeah. Next, he has to slay some giant metal birds. He has to capture the Minotaur's dad. I don't know. Have we talked about the Minotaur? Where that woman slept with a bull and then she had the Minotaur. So the bull had been running around and he had to capture that.
Got it. Okay.
He had to steal the flesh-eating mares of King Diomedes. So what he did is he pulled a Sansa because King Diomedes was inhospitable. That was a huge sin in Greek culture. Like he was rude to guests and he'd feed them to his horses. So Hercules was like, I'm going to feed you to your horses. And that calmed them down. So
interesting.
Next, he had to do a crossover with Gal Gadot. He had to obtain the girdle of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. So he goes, asks for it. He's just like, hey, can I have it? And she's like, yeah, you're hot. Here. And then,
Pretty privilege.
And then they have sex.
Well, Hera did not like that it was happening so easy. So she disguised herself as an Amazon, was like, he's going to try and like kidnap her. And the Amazons are like, what the fuck? And then they were fighting. And in the fight, Hippolyta was killed. But Hercules got away with her girdle. Though in some versions, she survives and is later married to Theseus and stars in some Shakespeare plays.
Yes.
Next, he had to steal cattle from this monster, Grayon or Gary or something. Gary. In the process, he made the Straits of Gibraltar, also known as the Pillars of Hercules. On this trip, he wrestled Atreus, a son of Gaia, and he learned if you keep him off the ground, away from his mom, Earth, then you can strangle him. But if he's on the ground, he's always getting energy from the Earth.
So he did succeed in killing him.
Yes. So, and that will come into play later. But so that was 10 labors. But Hera was like, his charioteer helped him kill that Hydra, and the river helped him clean the shit-caked stables. So
no, Hera. No, he did it. It's
He
done.
did it.
Doesn't matter how he did it. He did it.
She's like, he needs to do 2 more. So that's why it's the 12 labors of Hercules. Next, he had to steal the golden apples of the Hesperides. The Hesperides was a garden gifted to Hera from Gaia, Mother Earth, for her wedding. So they're like more enemies, but they gave each other gifts. It was guarded by a dragon, and the Hesperides, who are these nymph goddess daughters of Atlas. Shout out to Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods. We got Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Ziegler.
So this is okay.
They're the daughters
I'm
of Atlas,
now.
the Hesperides, who were not super powered goddesses. They were nymphs who guarded this tree.
And that's the tree that's in the movie, right?
Yes.
Dots are connecting right now.
Yeah. And their father, Atlas, was a Titan who had been punished by Zeus with holding the world on his shoulders, or the sky. So Hercules comes by and is like, well, because like, who can they'll let Atlas in because he's their dad. So he's like, Atlas, can you go get the apples for me? Because also you have to be careful because they make you immortal. And so mortals aren't supposed to touch them. So he's like, Atlas, can you get the apples for me? And I'll hold this guy. Atlas is like, sure. Then he comes back and is kind of thinking, maybe I'll just bring the apples to King Urethra and you can hold this guy. So he's going to try and stick Hercules with his job. Hercules is like, yeah, that's fine, but I just want to like adjust my shoulders. Can you just hold it for a quick sec while I do that? He's like, yeah. And then Hercules takes the apples, dips, leaving Atlas holding the sky. So Hercules
Probably
is clever.
Not in a comfortable position.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I'll just hold it. And he's like, fuck. This is not comfortable.
And that is now what we see whenever you look up Atlas.
Yep.
Yep. That was not the comfortable position he chose before Hercules got to him.
So he takes the apples back, and his last task is to catch Cerberus, the 3-headed guard dog of the underworld. Hades and Persephone, queen of the underworld, are like, it's fine, just like don't hurt him. And so
he's our baby.
Yeah, he doesn't. And then King Urethra is like, bring him back. And so then he brings Cerberus back, and now Hercules, free. He did his 12 labors.
I feel like in actual mythology, Hades and Persephone are just like 2 stoner guy people, just like chill. And obviously in the movie, they make Hades the villain because underworld, blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't know. He seems the least vengeful out of all of them.
He gets mad if you mess with him.
Well,
but
yes.
It's just easy
Wouldn't
to
you?
not mess with him. Like, people didn't like to like say his name out loud. Like, Hades and Persephone were feared, but it was less of like, they weren't evil. It was just like, death is scary, and they ruled over death.
Right. And
but they were reasonable.
They're just in the underworld being like, what's up, bro? You want to borrow my dog? Cool. Don't hurt him, please. Thank you. Let me have the sandwich.
Because Psyche convinced Persephone to put her beauty in a box. You know, Orpheus convinced them to give him a chance. So they can be bargained with.
Yeah, but they're not like how he's depicted in this movie
Yes, and in many movies.
and in
Yeah.
many movies.
Yeah.
Let's clear their names.
Yeah.
Yes. Because James Woods did a great job, I'm not gonna lie, as the voice actor, and like obviously Hades is in the pantheon of villains, Disney villains and all that, but like
Yeah.
in the source material, and yes, I'm gonna be that person right now. Disney
Yeah.
and Greek mythology are like on two separate planes entirely.
Yeah. Because Hera is the antagonist of this story, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's a sweet mom in the movie. What?
Later, Hercules did learn his lesson and he killed some more people. But this time Zeus was in charge of picking his punishment. And this whole side quest feels like someone had a specific kink and worked it into the story.
Uh-huh.
So Zeus makes him marry / be a slave to this queen Omphale, a Libyan queen. So that's his second official wife. And she wore his clothes and he had to like dress feminine and like be her servant and like wear dresses and like do the spinning and the needlework. And act like a lady. And there's some debate depending on the source of whether he was into it or not. So
look at that.
I mean, they all wore togas anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe Hercules liked it back. You know, that's the energy the story gives. Like the way it's written, it's just kind of like, okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, good for him. He went on this little quest. I think it was like 3 years of this. And then later he's free. He saves this woman, Daenerys, from a river god. And he marries her. Now, after their wedding, they have to cross a river. And Hercules is like, yeah, it's fine. But she didn't want to cross a river. So Nessus, a centaur, offers to carry her across the river. But as we mentioned in Narnia, centaurs aren't typically nice. So this centaur then tried to kidnap her. But Hercules shot him with a poison arrow. As he's dying, he's like, hey girl, use my blood. It's a love potion. So if Hercules is ever unfaithful, you can use my blood to win him back. It's a surprise tool that will help us later. Later, Hercules, depending on the version, was either just partying with his bros, maybe partying a little too hard with his bros, or she was misinterpreting things, or he was gonna cheat on her, but he asked for a new fresh robe. And so she covered the robe in the love potion, but really it was poison because it was a mix of centaur blood and hydra poison from the Hercules arrow. So he puts it on, and now he's burning up like the Jonas Brothers. He's in pain. He's writhing in agony. So now he's pulling a Denethor, and he's like, "Burn me alive." So they're trying to burn out the mortal of him, and Zeus is like, "It's apotheosis time," and takes him to Olympus to be a god. And the other gods are like, "Yeah," and Hera's still like, "I still don't like you." But Gaia, Mother Earth, makes one last attempt to overthrow Zeus. She sends the giants, or the Gigantes, in a last attempt to defeat Zeus. They could only, according to prophecy, be defeated by a mortal. As a former mortal, Hercules could do this. He also knew that as children of Gaia, you had to lift them off the ground, and that would make them weak, so then you could strangle them. So he saved Olympus, and Hera was grateful for that. And so she gave him her daughter, Hebe, the goddess of eternal youth and maybe forgiveness, as his fourth and final wife.
Wow.
And that is the story of Hercules. Yeah, so that's the mythology part. That's the story of Hercules, roughly.
I mean, there's probably way more stuff that you glossed over because you're like, well, we don't need to learn about all the people he fucked along the way.
So, because typically people are like, okay, he did the 12 labors and he goes on to become a god. You know, that's kind of like the story.
Yeah, and this movie did not do that, or did it in a way.
Yeah, you see when you watch it, you're like, it does pull a good amount from the story.
Yeah.
It's just the context of everything is so different, it doesn't feel like it.
Because it's the 12 labors that, I mean, he does most of them
in a
movie, in a montage, or the Cerebus thing like he does at the end. But like the context is different. It's not like a punishment. It's like it's his heroism. Like it's just like a
Yeah.
task that he's given
Right.
from Hades. So it's
And
not like a punishment, it's just like a test.
No,
Trying
no.
to kill him.
Oh yeah, Hades is trying to kill him, but also Zeus sets it up to be like, you have to prove
to be a
you're a
true
hero,
Right.
true
Yeah.
hero, and all that. And the way that Zeus says it, it's like a wink to the audience, be like, a true hero. None of this heroism shit that he's gonna do is gonna count.
Yeah,
Watching this again as an adult, I'm like, you have to sacrifice something. You really
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
You're gonna have to die,
you're gonna
kind
have to
of.
sacrifice.
I guess what Jesus did
Yeah.
to
Hercules,
get up.
Jesus.
Yeah, I
Horace
mean,
did it first. Get it
But-
right.
Horace, listen to our God's Egypt episode. See how many
Yeah.
times we say, "Come, let us." So we've been talking about the movie, but yeah, let's kind of delve into it. This movie oddly reminds me of Sleeping Beauty in a weird way because the long prologue, because
Okay.
a significant portion of the movie is when the protagonist is a baby. Unlike Sleeping Beauty, where the fairies are kind of the protagonist, Hercules is still our protagonist. But I feel like his story gets rushed because we spend so much time with him as a baby. And you could almost argue that Hades is the protagonist of this movie.
Yeah, who has the strongest desire?
Hades. I think it's Hades. And
But,
we
like-
follow him from the beginning.
But like Hercules is the one that learns the lesson. He
Yeah.
literally goes on the hero's journey.
Yeah. But
He has to learn about loss.
I don't think Hercules, he learns a lesson, yes, but the character wasn't set up as needing to learn that lesson. I think there's some characterization weakness in him in that we'll talk about this more, but like he essentially learns that fame and fortune isn't heroism, right? That like being famous, like
Yes.
doing all this stuff isn't heroism. But you don't get the vibe that this character needs to learn that. He's always been very like sweet. And
And
whereas
he
like
doesn't
even
become like evil or conniving when he gets all that. He's still sweet and
which he's
still
a Disney
somewhat humble.
a Disney
Yeah.
protagonist, but he isn't allowed some of the shades of gray that they allow like Aladdin to have, where Aladdin does think he needs to be rich to be worthwhile.
I feel like though it does kind of go to his head, but not as bad as it could.
Yeah, I think they needed to make it stronger.
Well, I think it's because they start with him, they're like, he's an outsider, he's a freak. And so his desire is to learn, to find where he belongs. That's his desire. And he finds out that where he belongs is with Meg, is like with loving friends and people who accept him. Like he finds that. That's his desire. But this hero's journey is like him figuring out if this is where he belongs, if this is the role he's supposed to have.
And I think those beats were kind of there with he becomes rich and famous, but I think for time purpose, they had to cut what could be when he gets caught up in the rich and famous and he needs someone to bring him down. Like Meg is the perfect character to bring him down a peg if he gets too high and mighty. Well, but I think because the prologue is so long, we miss time with our protagonist.
The scene that comes to mind though, where I'm going to argue it does go to his head, is the second time he visits Zeus in the temple.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where he says, I'm an action figure, squeezy toy. And you're like, okay, because it's more so like you said, he equates fame and fortune with being a hero because now he's no longer seen as other. Now people are praising him. And he's like, I'm doing the thing. Like,
can I be a god now?
Can I be God now? And Zeus, the coy little bitch that he is
he
like,
did not define those terms.
I'm gonna be super vague, and you're gonna have to figure it out. Peace out, bitches. I'm gonna turn to marble again.
That's the thing is when I critique this movie, I'm not saying like this movie's garbage. I don't see how anyone could like it because there's a lot to love in this movie. Like I really love some of the visuals. We're gonna talk about the music on Life's But a Song, so check that out.
Yeah. But also, I feel like this is a good, because I feel like I also watched this in school when we were doing Greek mythology, because it's a nice, like, broad stroke.
Window. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a first step.
Yeah, because
Uh,
Cullen, even you said that, like, it kind of
Yeah.
got you interested in
Well, it was
the,
like I was interested and this was like an approachable like avenue
but
because
it,
it's a family friendly.
but I
Yeah.
feel like it's the first step for kids
Yeah.
to be like, okay, now I want to learn. Either you want to learn more or you don't want to learn more.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that this was my gateway drug into learning more about Greek mythology, and I'm in a 12-step program right now, everyone, to
12
work
labors.
through this. Yeah.
12 labor program.
The 12 labor program set up by King Penis.
So let's talk about this prologue. So we open with this, this stuffy narrator, and then the muses are here and they're like, no, we're gonna tell a fun story. And they talk about Zeus and the Titans, and they take us up to Olympus. And we see all the
Which
gods.
is your background.
My background right behind
Reporting
me.
live from Olympus.
Yeah. We see the gods celebrating the birth of Zeus's son Hercules. If Hercules is Zeus's only son, where did these other gods come from? But we don't need to. But we also.
I'm sure they'll answer it in the live action.
And we see Narcissus.
Yes.
Shout out to our episode of Couples, our Little Mermaid episode. Haven't seen this much love in a room since Narcissus discovered himself.
His reflection, yeah.
Yeah.
I like though that they also make them recognizable with a token of some sorts.
It's fun to look at the group scenes of the gods and be like, which one's that? Like,
because like before it's Aphrodite, you see that she has a heart on her toga.
Her head's even kind of heart shaped.
Yeah.
Like
I
her
blacked
hair
that out.
is like.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, we're at this party and Hades shows up. Unlike Maleficent, he is invited. He's like, unlike you guys, I got a job to do. Like, I'm running the underworld, the job that you gave me.
Hey, Apollo has a job.
Yeah, he's running around with the sun, like keeping the sun. We also see Zeus make Pegasus for baby Hercules, baby Pegasus. They were like, we're selling plushies of this.
So many bird jokes, and I was here for every single one of them.
And so Hades is like, okay, bye. He goes back down to the underworld, and we see the river Styx has all the souls in it, and he's in this giant skull, where there's like this many served, like a soul descends, and the number flicks up. Which is fun. And we see the Fates, and they've been there. They're waiting on Hades, who's late. And he shows up and is like, okay, tell me the future. And they're like, well, we can't just tell anyone the future, even though we know everything. But that's when they say indoor plumbing, going to be a big hit. Which was in the trailer. The trailer for this movie was on one of our VHSs. So I like anything that's in the trailer is in like my core memory.
Well, because like this movie is the delicate balance of like a lot of kids programming and kids movies where they're putting in a lot of jokes. They're putting in the jokes for the kids, a lot of visual gags and everything, but they're hoping that the parents will understand some of the humor as well, with like the indoor plumbing line or the Narcissus line, or even like for me, the bird jokes, where you call a flying horse a bird brain and you're like, that's funny.
Yeah, so they set up our story with this prophecy. They're astrology girlies, so when the planets align, Hades will have a chance to release the Titans and take over. Unless Hercules fights, then Hades will lose. So he's pissed. They're tossing their eye around. There's like a hair on the eye at one point.
So funny.
I do love the eyeball bit. And so he's like, okay, well, we need to get rid of Hercules. So I'm just going to make him mortal, which is something Hades can apparently just do. He has a bone room with a pink potion that's very easy.
One vial, though.
One vial. He has one vial that can just make him mortal. Where'd he get it? Why? Who needs to know? I bet we'll have 20 minutes in the live action explaining it.
Yep, because it'll be a 3-hour movie.
And
Wait, does anyone remember how much he's supposed to drink of this vial? I don't think they said it enough in the movie.
No, was it most of the bottle?
I think it was some of it.
A sippy sip.
Yeah.
Just
a
a
sippy sip.
Just a little splash.
Just like communion. Just like it. Yeah.
The fact that they're like, he has to drink every last drop, and it's said like 5 times, and then obviously, guess what, everyone? He doesn't drink the last drop.
They need they need something other than Hera's breast milk to give him super strength. So Pain and Panic get up to Olympus, which has no guards. And they take baby Hercules and they feed this poor baby this potion, and they're gonna kill him, but he doesn't drink the last drop because this shepherd Amphitryon and his wife Alcmene walk by, and they're like, "Oh, this baby," and they're like, we had prayed to the gods for a baby, and one showed up. So they're like, okay, let's take care of him. And then the Pain and Panic, Snakeify, and Hercules bops them around, and they're like, Hades gonna be so mad. And he finds out he's not dead, and they're like, if he finds out, though Hades runs the underworld where all the dead people go, but I guess he'd have to comb through the river.
You're right.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a catalog. I mean, if Pain and Panic are running the bureaucry of the underworld, then it is not efficient.
They also didn't set him up as Santa, let's say, where he has the list of names that are coming in.
He's just making sure the river of Styx is still flowing.
Yeah, he is kind of hands off.
Yes.
Yeah. Zeus is searching for him, but they find that he's with these mortals. And poor Zeus and Hera. This was sad. I felt bad.
Wait, do they know? I don't think they know.
Well, because it says Zeus and Hera wept, but he couldn't
watch him grow up from afar.
Yeah, because he can't go to Olympus because he's not a god.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Oh, right. I mean, also, it's they live on Mount Olympus, which is in magic place. So, obviously they can pay attention to Earth or Earthlings, but it's just why didn't you intercede earlier? I mean, Zeus can transform into anything.
Yes,
literally anything. Doesn't he has a swan at one point fuck somebody?
Helen of Troy's mom.
Yeah,
Helen of Troy is the kid of Zeus and as a swan.
Disney, you could have had him have a line or something, be like, Zeus watched him grow up. And
he took the fairy godmother approach. I'm gonna wait till you're absolutely so fucking depressed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait for you to call out for help.
Yeah.
And then I'll help you.
He's an awkward boy who crashes his town, destroys everything because he's clumsy and he's super strong, and everyone's like, he's a freak, he doesn't belong.
And by this point he's what, 15, we'll say?
Yeah,
15. Yeah, because the curse is taking place 18 years after the birth. So Hercules, one of the few Disney characters with a defined age. He joins the club with Ariel and Aurora. He just wants to belong. He wants to fit in. He wants to be like the cool kids. And we'll talk about what he might do to express that on Life's But a Song. But
we did talk about it, you mean?
Yes, we did.
Yes, because it happened. Although we're recording it out of order, it happened already in release order.
So he is told by his foster family that he was left with the symbol of the gods, the lightning bolt. That he was adopted, and that he should go to the temple of Zeus to find where he might belong. The gods.
You're you waited until I was 15 to tell me this. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, he's been dealing with the super strength for a while because everyone already hates him
since birth. They saw him whip the snakes when he was a day old or whatever.
Those townspeople, they are jerks. And that's a theme of the podcast, is that Hannah hates townspeople.
hate townies.
You hated them in Beauty and the Beast. You hate them in Mamma Mia.
Which we have not talked about and will never talk about, but yes.
I feel like there are other townspeople you hated. I'm trying to think. So he gets this quest from Zeus. You have to be a true hero to earn godhood and get to Mount Olympus. What I wrote in the notes was, who made these rules? Did Jesus have to do this? And I guess he did, because he sacrificed himself. But and went to the underworld and came back. But
carried a cross, had a crown of thorns. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing.
Which is funny because, I mean, if we're going off arbitrary God rules, the whole because humanity sinned, you have to die brutally seems kind of arbitrary when you step back and look at the logic of that.
Right.
And this movie has the arbitrary God logic. True hero, that's what you need. Has anyone else done this?
Right.
We don't know. Who made this rule?
Achilles was on his way, and then the goddamn heel thing happened, which they mention again 7,000 times in this movie.
Achilles, his mother was a goddess, and he was put in the river Styx.
And it's her fault that his ankles were so weak.
Yeah.
So
well, okay, so I had to look it up because I remember the story of Achilles being that she dumped him in a water and by the ankle, and was the one ankle that got hit.
Yeah.
But that's like a version of it.
Yeah.
So you really gotta like wade through the different versions to understand Achilles' heel.
Some say it was the poison arrow of Hercules that Apollo gave to Paris. Paris shot him.
Well.
Because, so this is a very minor pedantic nitpick that does not matter, is that Greek mythology has a very loose timeline, not a consistent timeline. But one of those things in that timeline is that Hercules is before the Trojan War. Because people descended from Hercules are involved in the Trojan War. And because that was kind of like the climax of Greek mythology, there are stories that happened after, and that kind of transitions into the history of Rome, with Aeneas and stuff. But like everything was kind of building up to the Trojan War.
At least they didn't mention it in this movie.
Yeah.
So they got one thing right.
But it doesn't matter. That's the whole Achilles came after. Who cares? But I'm like, have to say it, but I don't care that.
Well, because again, it's the humor for the parents.
Yeah,
they do
all
like,
these Achilles.
I know of Achilles heel, and we have the Achilles tendon in our bodies. So.
Yeah, it's referencing the stories that people are gonna know, at least to the level the average person would know them.
Right. So in other words, this movie is very anachronistic to Greek mythology.
Yes. Yeah. So he has to go see Philoctetes, the trainer of heroes, which is a role that was usually held by Chiron, the centaur. But here we get a little Danny DeVito satyr, who's perving on some nymphs. They are not erased in this story, but
I know. I literally looked at I was like, Cullen's gonna be so happy there's nymphs.
There's nymphs, and they smack him in the face.
And when you said that they were going with this movie the Rocky route, it kind of now makes sense why they have Danny DeVito doing Danny DeVito or doing this version, because it's kind of like a little gruff, the guy I forget his name in Rocky, the trainer, and he's a little rascal and everything, and a little rougher on the edges, and you're like, okay, so Phil has obviously seen some shit and done some shit and is probably wanting to like snort blow off of these nymphs' butts.
Yeah. So. And they're like, no, thank you. So he is like, all my other heroes have disappointed me, because in this universe, hero is like a job. Like kind of like being an athlete. It's like a job you can aspire to, and they've all failed. But Zeus is like smites him and is like, teach my son, and they do a great little montage featuring the Karate Kid move.
Yes. And it was because they couldn't go the distance, and spoiler for us on Life's But a Song, but he literally had a song about going the distance, and that's what he wanted to do, and that's what he was gonna do, and So he was like, yes, you're clearly perfect for me.
And so Hercules gets all buff. He gets the voice of Tate Donovan. Pegasus grows up. Well, Pegasus is grown up.
Yeah.
And so, which again, we've mentioned this before. So Pegasus was born in mythology from the severed head of Medusa. When they cut off Medusa's head, Pegasus came out.
Oh, I
So
forgot about that.
The son of Medusa and Poseidon. And Bellerophon rode Pegasus, but not Hercules. But
Hey, they needed to sell some plushies somehow.
exactly. I'm like,
They
we need an
needed
animal sidekick.
Yes.
But and a
Disney,
Pegasus
for
is a
fuck's
great,
sake.
yeah. Pegasus is a great choice.
Yeah.
So they're flying to his, to start his hero career, but he hears someone cry out for help, a damsel in distress.
She's a damsel. She's in distress, but she's got this.
Feminism was born in this moment.
She reeks of 90s girl power feminism, which is like, she's an iconic character for a lot of people. And I respect that. But I was like, wow, this movie, definitely a product of its time, very heavy hitting with those messages. But you know what? Go girl.
Well, you also have to remember too, in the Renaissance started with The Little Mermaid, where they're teaching kids that you have to change yourself for little girls. You need to change yourself for a man.
That is
basically.
a reading. We just had this whole conversation, so that is a reading of it for sure.
That is a reading, yes, but
yeah,
but like they're also coming out of the Cinderella, the Sleeping Beauty, all of that, where they're literally damsels in distress and don't do anything. So like the fact that they're also trying to make women badasses in a way, I think Meg is a badass personally.
Yes.
Like
I mean,
they were starting and they're still trying and kind of getting there with the current day property.
I think Meg's a really fun character.
Yeah,
I don't see her as an improvement on any previous characters, but I do like that she's different. I do like that she's fresh.
I
she's
feel
not
like
a retread of the other 90s heroines.
No. And I feel like her and Esmeralda could be besties.
Yeah.
And fuck some shit up.
Esmeralda definitely is a lot more like she's tough, but her big thing is like her justice, compassion. Like she's, she's a true social justice warrior in the best sense of the word. And Meg is, they said she was inspired by like screwball comedy actresses. Like, so she's kind of going for that kind of like world weary, like fun, and because the protagonist is a male, that's when we get more sexy heroines like Jasmine, Esmeralda, Meg. So she's a little more sexy, but I think she's a fun character. I enjoy her. But she is very 90s girl power feminism, and she is maybe the beginning of Disney. I mean, Disney is so invested now in navigating its own brand and rehashing its old characters. And this is a sign of them starting to like have that conversation. I think Belle is the first one where they're trying to like interact with their legacy that way. And so now we get it in Meg. So he fights the centaur, cartoon antics. But Meg's annoyed because she was trying to win him over for Hades' side.
Because she's got business elsewhere. She's trying to save her soul.
And he got distracted by her beauty, and Phil is mad, but Phil's trying to hit on her, and she's like, gross. Yeah. And she's like there wringing out her hair, and he's like, oh, like, hi. And she's like, what's your name? He's like, and she's like, oh, are you usually this articulate? My friends call me Meg, or they would if I had any friends. And she said the feminism was also born with this line. Men, they think no means yes, and get away means take me, I'm yours. And she's like, ask your friend Phil all about it.
Satyrs, bad history.
Yeah, she knows.
Oh yeah.
But she starts
layers. The jokes are layered.
Yeah.
She calls him Wonder Boy. And she's like, I like Wonder Boy better. And she saunters off, and this is where we find out she works for Hades, because we see these cute little animals come up to her like she's a typical Disney heroine, and they turn to pain and panic. And she works for Hades because she We find out later she sold her soul to save the man that she loved, and then he cheated on her.
Sorry, I just had to scream inside internally for a second
I
there.
think in one of the TV shows they might like show him in like the TV show.
Interesting.
What a little fucking bastard. Anyway,
yeah, I like it's like, oh, I can't believe someone would do that, but like I can. So
anyway, let's go to Thebes.
Thebes. So yeah, Hades finds out Hercules is alive. He's pissed. This is his version of Maleficent screaming at the lagoons. Again, he's not checking the Asana tickets to see if they're marked as completed. So
do they have Asana? I doubt it.
I doubt it. So we go to Thebes. It's like New York. We get the want to buy a sundial, the flasher.
Also, another great for the parents joke.
And
because you think that they're flashing him, and then you see the
Yeah.
sundial, and you're like, okay, we
Hercules
get it.
kind of flashes us at one point.
Yeah,
I was like, wow,
his
I was
titties
expecting.
are all out.
Yeah, I was like, I was expecting
Couple
this
times.
skirt to always be down in that magical cartoon way.
Yeah, that too.
They're like, we don't need a new hero, another chariot chaser, like whatever, like go back to Ohio, you know. And then he sees so Meg is like, there's some kids trapped in the gorge, and he's like, great, there's kids trapped in the gorge, and she's like, wow, you're really beat up about this. And he fights the Hydra, growing heads, slashy.
Going a little more with like the Renaissance with Beauty and the Beast, I think it was when they were trying to do like 3D animation with the 2D world, and like you get the ballroom scene and everything, and like obviously they perfected it with that movie, and then from then on they try to like utilize it as much. So with this scene you get the Hydra, which is definitely 3D animated in the 2D, or like the computer animated, I should say, in 2D world of everything.
It fits
and
well.
It works.
Yeah, it doesn't take me out of it. Like, yeah, you can tell, you know, but it doesn't. I'm like, yeah, I think that's
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
I just was like, oh, this is weird, and that's it.
I thought it was fun though when he's like inside the neck and he slices it, and when he's like slicing.
Well, because like, I feel like they were trying to, in this scene, recreate the ballroom sweeping camera motion with it, because like you bring in Pegasus and you get that motion of like understanding the space, and to really like make it not seem flat, and that's what I really liked about it. And like, yeah, it's a little cartoonish, and yeah, the Hydra is a little like goofy and stuff like that, especially for its demise, but you're like, but like they were doing things, they were a little more and like I don't think a lot of people realize like that the Renaissance was like a really experimental period for Disney. So the fact that we have a male-led Disney movie during the Renaissance with this technology that they're perfecting, and there's songs, and it's a hero's journey, like this movie I feel like should have done better than it did. Sorry, I don't know what I think tangent we have very different takes
on this movie, because I'm like, yeah, this movie has some fun stuff, but I'm like, ooh. So
again, okay, so this is the reverse, where this is my childhood that's now being put to trial.
But I'm glad, because we definitely need the voice, because a lot of people do really love this movie. I've been canceled many a time for saying this movie isn't good. So I wanted to shout out voices that love this movie.
And it's okay to have your opinion no matter how wrong it is.
Yes. As they say about all my Glee music opinions. So
I mean, you did have the worst opinions. It is statistically a fact.
Yeah.
Check out the Gleekies; they're out now.
So he becomes, so after this, he becomes super rich and famous. Montage of those labors. Monsters. Hades is throwing every monster he has at him.
Which it's not. They don't do. They obviously don't do all 12.
Right.
No.
But it's
They
like a
show you what, like
couple-
5 maybe?
Yeah, it's like a smattering
Yeah,
because
like
there's
because you
the
see the boar,
lion
the lion,
thing.
the bird.
He fights
Yes.
a gorgon, which is like, okay, we're obviously another anachronistic moment because that's
Perseus.
Perseus. Yeah.
Yeah. So he now he's famous and rich, cash to burn. Zeus doesn't care. He's like, that's not what being a real hero is.
Mm-mm.
And so he's like, why am I doing all this? Like, he doesn't care about the fans or whatever, who are like trying to chase him around. But Meg finds him and is like, do you want to play hooky? Do you want to like go hang out? And he's like, okay. And they go see Oedipus. He's like,
Another
I
one
thought
for
I
the
had problems.
parents.
He's like, I thought I had
yeah.
problems.
Which obviously as a kid I didn't pick up on it, but now as an adult I understand the story of Oedipus.
That's a
Mommy,
great
what's
joke.
Oedipus?
You're too young for this.
You're not old enough. You will never be old enough to understand that story, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get to it. I don't know
You'll
if there's
hear
a
it
film
in
adaptation.
high school and you'll be traumatized.
Yeah.
Early high school, in my case.
So Meg is trying to find his weakness. He's like, I don't really have any. But, you know, she's like very cynical and he's all very idealistic. He's like, I would never do anything to hurt you. Like, you just make me really happy. Like, I love spending time with you.
And she's like, what's the catch?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, because Hades wants her to find a weakness, and she's thinking that she's going to find a physical weakness.
But then, as Hades points out, you're his weakness.
Boom.
He's like, I can't believe you're getting all worked up about this guy. And she's like, oh, but he's kind and sweet. He wouldn't do anything to hurt me. And he's like, but he's a guy. It's giving Lois Lane. The weakness
Save Martha.
of Superman. What? Yeah. Phil sees that Meg works for Hades, is trying to tell Hercules that, and he's mad. And this is when he's doing workouts. And this is when I said we see his Hercules, because he, like, from the front, his skirt is down. I was like, wow, okay.
Because Hercules, I can't.
Yeah, I was like, Hercules, cover up. This is a children's film, and you are barely legal.
Whatever.
Yeah. I just expected that they wouldn't do that angle. Honestly, I was like, wow, okay.
Again, this was really experimental time for Disney.
So,
way to throw my words back at me. I mean, come on.
You're experimenting with Hercules. So we get Hades shows up, and this is our first Hades Hercules scene together, and they're both fully aware. So they do beat Maleficent and Aurora for protagonist and villain interacting and being fully aware of it.
I'm going to be that guy and say this is their first scene together where they're both adults and can talk.
Yes.
And this is their first conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Maleficent and Aurora didn't have any. Like, I don't know if Aurora knew anything that happened by the end of that movie.
Oh, that's true.
So, like, because Hades,
I've never thought about it that way.
Hades reminds me of Maleficent because his beef isn't really with Hercules personally. It is an overarching plan, like, that was before he was a baby.
So this is the idea of him.
Yeah. You sort of have that with Ursula because she's really after Triton. But Ursula and Ariel have a lot of interpersonal interaction.
And all three of them are campy drag queens. Yes, you're correct.
Yes. Yeah. As Disney villains often are. So Hades, like Ursula, is, you know, kind of, I don't think he's as persuasive as Ursula, but I love the scene where he's like, we gotta make this deal, you know, like, hurry up, I don't have a lot of time, you know, and Hercules is like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I have Meg, I'll kill her, or I'll set her free if you agree to retire your heroism for a day and give up your strength for a day. So they make a deal, they shake, he goes weak, and Pain and Panic are dumping the slimiest
He promises
soda
that
on
Meg
it.
will not get hurt.
Yes, that is key. He's like, Meg cannot get hurt.
To throw this in the ring, why didn't he just do that in the beginning? Like, take the powers away from baby
Hercules had to agree. He had to shake.
Did he, though? I mean, if Hades has the ability to take your godlike powers away, just fucking do it.
I guess it's a deal thing.
No,
it's like selling your soul.
Loosey goosey.
Yeah, I mean, all the rules in this universe are very vague, which in a weird way is in keeping with the spirit of Greek mythology, where things are not very defined.
You're right.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not Disney's fault. It's Greek mythology's
it's
fault in this
blame
case.
the Greeks. Send your invoice to the Greek government. So the planets align. Mercury is full on retrograde, and so Hades can release the Titans and be like, let's destroy Zeus. They're like destroying everything, and he's like, guys, Olympus is that way.
But
Yeah,
then he gives a side quest to the Cyclops, which you're like, okay, I can understand the other ones being a redesign of the Titans because
they're all elemental. They're the
they're
four
all
elements.
elemental and they're all evil. The Cyclops?
The Cyclops were the Titans' brothers.
Oh,
The one in the Odyssey is
okay.
Poseidon's son, so it is vague. But in the creation story, the Cyclops are also the children of Gaia and Uranus, and their Kronos put them in the underworld, and Gaia was mad, and Uranus did it to them before because they were ugly, and that's why Gaia got Kronos to castrate and overthrow Uranus.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
Okay. So
there's
now that this is making sense. Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason enough. And so the Cyclops is there to essentially bully Hercules. Like it's just like, show me Hercules, and it's just like, you little weak guy, little weak little man.
Defame him in a way.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah,
But
ruin
doesn't
his
this
life.
end up being his own demise?
Yes.
Because he's the one that like he knocks something over and that Meg saves him from.
Yes.
Right. And
Hades
Meg
is
gets
a dummy.
hurt.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Hubris.
Jafar.
True.
Well,
Jafar just fucked up.
He probably didn't think that far ahead. All he told the Cyclops was basically like, use this guy as your punching bag for the next 12 hours or whatever. While I'm gonna, destroy Mount Olympus.
So Hades, like Maleficent, doesn't really see love as a threat. And so whereas Maleficent didn't expect love to get in the way of her schemes, Hades didn't expect Meg to sacrifice herself for Hercules. And Hercules was fighting back. He was being clever. He was using his brain. Using the noodle, as PB&J Otter said. And then he
deep cut.
Yeah, and so Meg pushes him out from underneath a falling pillar and is being crushed to death. Yeah. What kind of, is that an ionic, a Doric? Remember that part of the history test? But Hercules gets his strength back because Meg was hurt. And so they're like, okay, you gotta go. Phil's gonna watch her as she's dying because she got Phil to be like, we need to help Hercules, And she saved Pegasus, who's being seduced by Pain and Panic as My Little Pony.
Yeah, that was disturbing.
And they did say that they were really into Pegasus. They're like, I wasn't lying, I was really into you. It's giving Loki. So we're up on Mount Olympus. Which, okay, sidebar, the first time I ever read Norse mythology, I just thought mythology was one genre, like it was one story, so I was confused. Like, who are all these new characters? I thought they're just other people that lived on Mount Olympus. Anyways, so Hercules flies up, the gods have been captured, Zeus is being cemented up, Hermes has been captured. He's like, everyone's been captured. Even I've been captured. Hercules shows up. He cuts through their chains of all the gods, frees Zeus, and he uses the wind one to suck in all the other Titans and throw them into the sky and blow them up. It's a Hercules tradition.
Yeah, your description got very sexual right there. Are you Zeus?
The funny thing wasn't even trying. Now he's like, haha, I won, and we blow out Hades' hair, our comic antics, and they're like, by the way, Meg's dying. And it's like, oh fuck yeah.
Well, Meg is dead.
She flies down, dead. And the fates cut her string, her hand goes limp, and now she's dead. So he runs down to the underworld, pilots Cerberus, and is like, Hades, give me Meg. And he's like, I can just give her to you. She's in the stream. That the level of where the stream is at it varies from shot to shot, but they're all in this well of souls.
It's their interpretation of the river.
Yeah.
Sticks, yeah.
It's like, oh, you can get her, but you'll die. And Hercules is like, you take me and I'll take her. And they're like, he's like, fine. They make a deal. Hercules jumps in, and he's just like, oh, I forgot to tell you,
You're not
you'll
gonna get to her in
die.
time.
He's getting old,
Right.
wrinkly, and the fates are gonna cut his string. And then he grabs Meg, and then the string lights up. It's a glow stick now. And they're like, what's the matter with these scissors? I love that line. And Hercules is now a god arising from the sticks with Meg in his hands, and Hades is like, oh, come on, please, please, please. And Hercules just shoves him in the sticks, and the souls are all like piling on him, and they're like, oh, he won't be happy when he gets out. And Pain and Panic are like, if he gets out.
Callback joke.
Callback. And so Meg is, her soul's put back in her body. She comes back to life.
She's
organs,
cured of her
organs
spinal
heal.
injury.
And then they are summoned up to Olympus because Hercules has earned, he sacrificed himself to save that young woman. Zeus doesn't know her name. You know, and now you're a god. Come live with us, and you know, thank you. And he's super happy. You know, this is like everything he's ever wanted in a way. But then he's like, he sees Meg just kind of like, I guess I'll leave. You know, she's trying to be happy for him. And this is a sweet scene where he's like, you know, a life without Meg, even an immortal one, would be an empty life. Like, Meg is where I belong. They kiss. He undeifies. They're sent back to Earth, and not after Phil tries to make out or makes out with Aphrodite, which is funny because there's famous art of Aphrodite hitting a satyr with her sandal, being like, "Get away from me."
No, she kisses
She
him.
kisses him. She kisses him, but I'm like, it's a funny inverse of the art.
Yeah, but we want to make this point clear. Although Phil has been horny for everybody the whole movie, he like says a cheesy come on line to her, or hits on her with a weird line, and she kisses him.
And she's like, "I'll do it. I'll hit it."
I mean, she would agree, as the Cupid and Psyche we talked about, she would make out with whoever found Psyche for her. So that's her gift. She's like, you trained the person that saved Olympus. Well, quick make out.
I guess that was their sneaky way of just showing you how horny the Greek gods were.
Yeah.
Maybe the family-friendly way.
The
family-friendly way, yeah.
Just one sexualized woman.
Say one corny line to hit on me, and I'll just make out with you right now.
And so she's like, it's giving the maid and Beauty and the Beast. And so they fly down, and everyone's like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, that's Phil's boy, because they see Hercules in the stars, which was Phil's dream, was to have his guy up in the stars. And they say, you know, the muses say, even in your darkest hour, in your heart's the power to be a hero too. A star is born. And then we get our end. And then we get a song by Michael Bolton, the father of Sue Sylvester's baby.
All roads lead to Glee on both of our podcasts.
Well, I was like, Michael Bolton. I'm like, well, we gotta mention that. So that's a quick rundown of the plot. Let's quickly touch on our character's message and final question, and then you'll hear more of what we have to say in another podcast. Let's put a song.
Or you heard it already.
Depending on the order you listen to these.
Depending on what, yeah.
Who is our protagonist, and do we root for them?
It's Hercules.
I know we say it feels like Hades because we spend so much of the story with him.
If we're getting super technical, we could probably make the argument, but I mean,
that's not the point. It's Hercules.
Yeah, it's Hercules. And sure, of course I root for him, you know. It's
I mean, I do. It's not like I'm like, fuck this guy. Like, he's likable enough. I just think who finds Disney protagonists that most people would describe as bland, like pretty charming. I find Hercules kind of bland. I just don't think he's on the Aladdin level or even the Eric level.
Oh yeah, no. When you compare him to those other two and some other like handful of people, no. But like I feel like he has more of a personality than like John Smith and Pocahontas.
Oh yeah, fuck John Smith.
Yeah, that guy fucking sucks.
Even though I used to dress as him for costume parties because it was easy, and I'm like, wow, cringe. But I put markers in my pocket. I put markers in my pocket, be like, Colors of the Wind. I did it all for the bit.
I can't.
Wait a second. One more time. In the timeline of Disney films, this is right after
Hunchback.
Hunchback.
Yeah.
My God, Hunchback also has like all the characters and with big personalities.
Yeah.
Frollo,
Yeah.
Hellfire, come on.
Yeah. So Hercules is, I think the problem for me is because there's tone issues in the movie. B, we spend too much time in a prologue with Hades because Hades is really fun. But so I don't think he's allowed. There's like I'm missing a few scenes to give me fleshing out because I know it's a Disney movie and I'm not expecting like a super in-depth character sketch. Like I'm expecting a variant of a nice guy, but in order for his story to, and I mean that in the like someone who's actually nice and kind, not like an internet nice guy, but like in order for his story for me to really land is the story they're trying to tell, which ties into our theme, is what is a true hero. And it is kind of implied that he's more in the hero to become a god, but that's never really challenged too much. And so we need him to have a false idea of what a hero is, which he kind of does. But again, it's like it's too thin. And so I think that's why he's not like hitting for me. And that's why because he has the low moment of when like he feels betrayed by Meg and stuff. But I think we just spend too much time in the prologue and Hades explaining how Hercules is Hercules. And in a short movie, we can't give that much time to the prologue. I think that's why I
also don't find him relatable because again, I know that he's a god in some way, shape, or form. And so I feel like I think you're right that like we're missing some key scenes where like maybe I would have been able to relate to him and feel more for the people calling him a freak and stuff.
Yeah.
If we had more scenes with him when he was younger growing up, seeing how much of a struggle that was for him.
Yeah.
Or it's because we know that he's super strong and like the training montage, it's like he's already good at it. Like,
and the other thing is like he didn't need to train necessarily. I told him I was like, he just needs to bulk up. He needs to eat more protein shakes. Like that's what he needs. He's already strong.
I mean, I can see for like the agility of like the damsel saving moments. But like I think because then in the next movie that comes out, which is Mulan, you get the training montage that is iconic and
the ultimate training
and fulfilling because
she starts weak and trying to figure it out. Like I don't think we learn with Hercules. Like we're not seeing him grow into these skills. Like the montage is just very like, oh, he just picks it up pretty quickly.
Too much of his journey is montage because Zero to Hero, and I love that song.
Iconic number.
What music spoilers is a montage of him being a hero. So I think I think some of those elements were there, but the structure spent so much time in the prologue. So it's like the story really gets started when he meets Meg.
See,
like that's when it.
Even though I do love this movie and I do have the emotional attachment, I do understand what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people who are going to fight you because like, I get it watching it but like, we are not the target audience either. You have to also remember that.
Yeah.
So I feel like if this was made in like today's Disney as an animated movie, not as the live action remake or anything, I feel like we would be getting more of this, or like we would like that for the scene in the market would be he's not 14, he's like 7 or something.
I mean that could have been a good opener of the whole movie,
or like nobody knows who he is. If nobody knew who he was, would you think this would be better because like the parents hid him because of his strength?
Oh, they didn't want anyone to know. He's almost like an Aurora in that way.
Trauma.
He's hidden away.
Yeah,
kind of
trauma.
Kind of like Superman, where the George and Martha Kent are like, you gotta not do your powers. Like you gotta subdue yourself. Because and then the big accident happens.
Act normal. like
Yes.
force him to
Yeah.
act normal. And so he's like, well, what? But I'm not normal. I'm a freak.
I'm a freak. I think
Boom.
there's a
Solved.
reason Hercules
Solved.
and Meg are special event characters at the parks, and they're not people that. It's because there's some issues with the storytelling.
Right.
But I mean, our next question is: do we ship Hercules and Meg?
Sure.
I
Yeah,
think
they
they're really
work.
cute together. I think they're
Yeah.
cute, and that's the thing is when I'm not someone who's like nitpicky with development because, like, yes, Disney romances are fast. That's the genre.
Yeah.
That's what I expect. And honestly, romances in adult movies are rarely more developed anyway. So,
Because like
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like love at first sight that they had for each other.
No.
It was they had to work on each other, become friends first.
they
Yeah.
went on a date. You know, she's involved in the story, and they're like a fun opposites attract. I think they're
Mhm.
fun, and I think Meg's a fun character.
Yes.
And I think
I agree with you guys saying that she's definitely 90s
Yeah.
feminist.
But
Super fun.
don't get me wrong. I think she's fun. But I was
Yeah.
just like, whoa, girl power.
girl power. Yeah, I mean, and then I think most of the characters. I'm not a huge Phil fan.
I'm not either.
I don't think we needed
It was
him.
fine.
But I love the muses. I think Pegasus is fun. I think the
Mhm.
gods are fun.
It's really interesting when you look at the cast list and you're like, why
Rip
does
Torn?
yeah, or no, or like you're like Apollo has a speaking voice? I
Yeah,
don't
I'm like,
remember
Oh,
him
yeah.
talking. And it's because when they're at war, they have like a line, and you're like, why? Why is it a named person? Just have like somebody be additional voices for this.
Right, yeah.
And let's talk about our antagonists. I mean, Hades. There's a reason he's an iconic Disney villain.
Happy Pride Month, queer coding.
Queer coding. I mean, James Woods has done and said things, but I do love his performance here.
That, yeah.
Well,
the
so
actor.
that's also the thing with a lot of the Renaissance Disney movies where you're like, but like I want to side with Ursula. I want to side with Gaston. I want to side with
Yeah.
Hades because they're fun. The
Yeah.
Scar, you're fun. You're the
Yeah.
queer coded character, clearly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hades is fun. I don't think Pain and Panic are fun. I'm gonna say it. I don't think they're
Yeah.
fun.
They're
They're
very boring.
weird.
They're not funny.
Yeah.
I don't know
Um,
what they are.
They're little
They're like little
demon
demons
minions.
or something.
Which Pain and Panic, I think there are gods of Pain and Panic, but I think they're children of Ares and Aphrodite.
But like in a movie that has the layered jokes for the parents that is anachronistic where it's incorporating other Greek mythologies, like you can tell that there was some time spent in researching this.
Yes.
But like, what is Pain and Panic?
Yeah. Like, what are they?
They're like he needs sidekicks, and that's the thing is I think because it's a hard story to adapt, you end up having to make all these like weird logistical choices and develop time to them. And I think this script maybe needed a couple more drafts, but this was a studio mandated film. This wasn't somebody's passion project. But that's our themes. We talked about what is a true hero. That's what we're talking about. I mean,
finding where you belong.
Commercialism versus authenticity.
Yeah.
Where again they make fun of it in the movie, but then they sell the Pegasus plushie.
There was a mall tour for this movie, as I learned when I was researching, and they shut down New York to do a parade. Like residents had to like turn their lights off and stuff.
I'm sure everyone was so happy about that.
Yeah.
They went to see the movie and they're like, we did that for this? Are you serious? They're like, it could have used a couple more drafts.
So our final question, was that your fantasy?
John, you go first.
So I'm conflicted. Because like I do have this emotional side. It is what got me into Greek mythology. I was the target audience when this first came out because I think I'm older than both of you. So I think I saw this in theaters. If not, we definitely had the VHS. So I don't know. It was nice with the nostalgia factor, but like I think the rose tinted glasses are coming off a little bit, and I can see the cracks and everything. But like I still was entertained.
Then
If
it's your
that's
fantasy. I'm not like, if you love and you enjoy watching this movie, we are
well,
not
yeah,
here to
no,
judge you for that.
well, yes, but
Never.
like I'm also being honest that
Yeah.
now a person in my 30s, like I've had time with this movie. I've dissected it, I've watched it.
Mhm.
We're talking about it on 2 podcasts. Like, in terms of like accuracy to the mythology, no.
No,
No.
yeah.
We're all in agreement, no, this isn't
No.
it. But like I don't know. I was very entertained with this, even rewatching it as a 30-year-old.
I mean, that is a movie's job, is to be entertaining, is it not?
Yes. Yes, and like I know we're not really talking about the music on this, but like the music is just so iconic, and like any millennial can sing you the songs from this, except for like One Last Hope, because that one I always forget. I black that one out. No, not One Last Hope. Yeah,
The
One Last
Danny
Hope.
DeVito, yeah, that's
That's the
yeah.
one that I'm just like, all right.
Yeah,
But yes, this is my fantasy. I'll put it that way.
yeah.
This is not my fantasy. And again, I think it is like the personal window thing that like I might have enjoyed it when I was a kid, but I really don't think I did because it wasn't in my rotation. And
Yeah.
it's not because
Understood.
it's a male-led movie, because Aladdin is one of my favorites. I think it's just that like there are so many other elements of Aladdin that I think work really well that doesn't work in this movie. And I think it is like the villain sidekick, for instance, like one of those like smaller things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I probably won't ever watch this movie again. So it's not really my fantasy, but I guess I did like some of the tie-ins to the mythology that you laid out for us. That like it is there. It's definitely there. Because
Yeah.
I thought it was
Oh
like,
yeah.
this doesn't sound anything like what I thought. And it's actually still there. So
Yeah.
It's wrong, but there.
It's there, I'm gonna say it's not my fantasy as much as visually. Like, I did love the gods and Mount Olympus. I liked that the character design was like very unique. As much as I wish I was a super hot ginger running around my tiny little toga that barely covers anything, super
Cullen, all you have to
muscly.
do is find a tiny little toga. You're already there. Boom, boom,
Thank you.
boom.
I do not have
Yes.
that physique,
And
but
stay out of the sun so your hair stays a bit redder.
it has potential. But again, it needs a couple drafts, so I'm going to say it's not my fantasy.
Yeah.
But there are things, maybe the musical variety, that are really fun. So, Jon, where can they hear us talk about that?
Oh my goodness. Hopefully some of you have heard it already, but if you haven't, my host a podcast called Life's But a Song, where we talk about musical movies and TV shows and sometimes actual filmed productions. Don't worry about how we watched it, but we watched. You can listen to our episode on Hercules or any other episode where you're listening to this, and all the socials are at But a Song Pod. I also have another podcast that I want to just throw some love to as well.
Absolutely.
It's called Movie Deja Vu, where myself and my co-host Shady, and sometimes we have guests on, and we compare similar movies by creating a verbal Venn diagram. We are currently on hiatus from that, but like we're coming back. We're figuring out. Life happens,
I'd
And
be
as Cullen and Hannah can say, like schedules are weird and
Podcasting.
podcast.
So weird.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Venn diagram of this movie and Sleeping Beauty. I think that'd be interesting.
Oh,
I don't know if there'd
Very
be a
good.
ton. Maybe if you really get into it, there's not a ton, but there's just, to me, they're similar places in the canon. You can follow Not My Fantasy at Not My Fantasy Pod on Instagram and the TikTok. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello.
Hi. Cullen, what can they do?
Smash that like button.
Smash the like button, hit the
Smash
notification
it.
bell, leave us a comment. What do you love about Hercules? Is this your fantasy? And you know what? I think we're just going to skip right to it. What's your favorite song from Hercules? Because I think that's the thing that all three of us can agree on is really amazing. But yeah, you can definitely follow us on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And then, yeah, like Cullen said, Instagram and TikTok.
And tune in later this month to see us tackle another demigod Greek mythology hero movie.
Maybe?
Perhaps.
We may have
For-
mayhaps mentioned the name earlier, kind
name.
of.
We may be
couple
talking about a certain
times.
good kid.
A good boy.
A good boy, 6 schools in 6 years, baby. All right. Tune next time for that, and catch you on Let's Put a Song if you want to hear our music opinions.
Woo!
Yeah.
Bye, listeners.
Bye.